Hey, so good morning. I guess it's afternoon when you're watching, but it is still morning here. It's a beautiful sunny day. Welcome to the Smear People Addendum, best of the comment section. Yeah, so you'll just have to bear with me. I have copy pasted the comments that I wanted to highlight or make comments on myself, but I'm not immediately going to remember what each comment was or what I wanted to say about it. And some of them are quite long, and I only wanted to comment on a certain part of it, but the most of the comment is there because I didn't want to cut out people's avatars and screen names. So my disclaimer is that I am doing this for entertainment. These are just my opinions. I don't have any professional mental health credentials. My credentials are personal experience with toxic and personality disordered individuals, common sense. I have an English degree, and I'm an ex-mechanic. So thanks for joining me today, and I'm just gonna pause and get myself set up, and then we'll get started. Okay, so here we go. I've labeled which video they came from, so these ones now are from part 1. And the first one here says, licensed psychologist here to report that all I hear from Babe is justification of his wife's crap behavior. This one I wanted to include because it's one of a number of comments by psychologists who have sort of weighed in saying, yeah, this is unethical, or this is not the way psychologists are supposed to be acting. So just some confirmation of what we were all kind of seeing here. I just wanted to give people the validation that, yeah, other psychologists are thinking the same way that you are thinking. So that was from the first comment there is from Jean, JN3NQ. So thanks for that, Jean. The next one is from Rita Agapian, 4150. Rita, sorry if I mispronounced that. And she says he overcomplicates concepts to fill time for content. For example, the Brad Pitt analogy could have been explained as black and white thinking leads us to believe that people are all good or all bad. This is why cancel culture could be problematic. Instead, we get hours of bloviating. And I think that's an important observation. I hadn't actually thought of that he was doing that to fill time for content. Maybe he is, maybe he isn't. Maybe it's a combination of him liking the sound of his own voice and also liking content. And it occurred to me that both of those extremely lengthy videos, the 9-hour and the 4-hour response, were about preparing for the lean times ahead. So they made some content that they knew was going to get a lot of clicks and a lot of likes and a lot of watch time, so that they could kind of rake in a little bit of cash before the explosion came. So good insight, Rita. Thanks for that. So next one is M Sherry 5, and she's responding to something that 100 Monkey said. So she says, it bothers me when people call this a mean girl spat. Lauren has hurt many people, other creators, family members of victims, and sometimes it seems just bystanders. She has misrepresented herself to her followers, and I feel that she lied to me multiple times in that 9-hour live. I can no longer trust what she reports, but I'm supposed to overlook all that and continue to support her because the woman who started all this is mean? There are many other people who are reporting similar experiences, and now she's taking Kresha to court. That was the final straw for me. It's unforgivable. So I kind of agree with that. People who are dismissing this as mean girl spat. Mean girls aren't just like, a silly phenomenon that we can all kind of dismiss. Mean girls are generally really problematic individuals that cause a lot of difficulty for the people around them in their lives. They tend to be bullies, they tend to be nasty, they tend to take pleasure in other people's pain and that sort of thing. So the whole dismissing it as mean girl spat is all part and parcel of misogyny and dismissing things that women are involved in general. So good comment. Excuse me. Good comment. M. Sherry, thanks for sharing. So this one here, Coastal Carolina 000. So she's talking about Lauren's book about being victimized by her ex-husband. So I've seen a little bit of that book. It is super cringe. I was unsurprised to hear that it was self-published because of how twee it was, and how it seemed to me that it literally could have been written by AI. I'm not saying that it was. But yeah, like this is just another person who was like picking up early on. I already had an ick factor, right? A lot of people felt that early on. And part of why I wanted to come and comment on all of this is because I want to encourage people to pay attention to ick factors, pay attention to their gut. I see a lot of people have done that, but it's just so important when you're dealing with these type of people that you don't kind of fill in the blanks for them and make excuses for them and kind of brush aside bad behavior like red flags. This is what Christina was trying to tell us, right? Pay attention to the red flags. So thanks for that, Carolina. Carolina. I really appreciate your comment. Maisie Wupp. The only good thing to come out of this debacle is the debate about ethics in the true crime genre, which it has generated on social media. So I absolutely am in agreement with that. I feel like even in the short time that I have been engaged with the true crime community on YouTube, that it has changed. And I see that sort of often in the flurry to get the reporting out there, I feel like the victims get missed. We all need to make money to live. We live in a capitalist society. And if you're creating content that people are consuming, then I'm in favor of, people being paid for that. But I do think that because YouTube's moderation around this is not strong, I feel like things have gotten out of hand in a way. And it's like an unregulated, like an unregulated media in a way, I think that citizen journalism is on the rise, not only because everybody has a camera and an opinion, but because the mainstream, the traditional media is failing us. There are, something like 5 major conglomerates that own all of the news outlets in, the Western world kind of thing, right? So if you have one company that owns 100 broadcast stations, they are all going to be tarred with the same ideological bent of the person that owns that company, and that is becoming more and more obvious. And so I think that citizen journalism is super important, but I'm also aware that journalists who are trained as journalists, like Lauren, who should know better, are trained in media ethics, and that is really lacking in the citizen journalism field. And I really appreciate that comment, because I think that there needs to be a lot more focus on ethics and a lot less focus on clicks. Or at least, people need to make money, and I get that, but you need to find a balance where you're able to make money without losing your ethics or blowing past important boundaries. So thank you for that comment, Maisie. I think it's really important. So these 3 are bunched together, so let's just see. Yeah, they are also. Happy Hiker 25 says John drones on, and she sits there bored to tears, but she thinks he gives her channel validity. Sweet Lulu 6194 says, I personally lost any and all respect I may have had for Dr. John Matthias. I felt my intelligence was insulted, and I resent gaslighting. And then Donna Lena says, just think, not only did Lauren participate in this self-serving stunt, but she likely approved the editing, saw the end results, and still released it on YouTube. That's really saying something. So I think what's really saying something, but the same thing that all of these comments are saying is that these guys don't seem to be self-aware at all. They're not aware of how they come across. And this, right? Saw the end results and still release it on YouTube. To me, that's evidence of that lack of empathy, that lack of the ability to read other people and to understand how you come across in the world. And all of these kind of highlight that to me, that I felt my intelligence was insulted, Sweet Lulu says, right? And it is insulting to be talked down to like that, and to be the attempts to kind of whitewash this whole thing are clear to people, right? And it's the fact that they can't see that we can see that is very telling. So that's what those ones were all about. Quintessence 1234 says, I'm guessing they grossly underpay their contractors, so they don't want them knowing they make over $2 million a year. And I'm assuming that's in response to the Dr. John's hissy fit about one of their contractors looking in their phone at their private financial papers. And I suspect exactly, right, that they're trying to hide how much they make, because they know, weirdly, right, they're oblivious of some things, but they do know how it looks, that they are getting filthy rich off of unethical behavior with victims of crimes. Mrs. Always Right 4. So she says, when he got so pissed remembering how he was interrupted when he was about to get to his best answer ever by some woman guest, I couldn't stop laughing. This guy is just so full of himself. Never liked these two and could not understand why people did. I feel so validated. Good luck with your channel. So I feel so validated. That's what I was trying to get to here. So part of it is like, here's another person who picked up on the weirdness of this channel. The I feel so validated part is what's important to me in this one, though, because for me, that's what this is about. That's why I'm here doing this, because when I came across Lillian London's video that validated how I was feeling about this, it was just a huge eye-opener for me about how many people, how much that meant to me, how much it kind of gave me confidence of my own perceptions was really important. And I think that it's really important that we feel validated. People who are dismissing all of this as a mean girl fight are underestimating how important this issue is. And I don't just mean with Lauren and Dr. John, although obviously them, but also just that this kind of lack of accountability, this narcissistic entitlement, like these are kind of, I feel like in some ways it's the issue of our time. And people are really struggling to understand how people can behave in this way. And so the reason this blew up the way it did is because of that very reason, right? People want accountability for bad behavior, and they want to understand, like, who are these people that can behave in these ways? When you think about Dr. John talking about Brad Pitt and how Oh, that just doesn't matter to him. It's not important to him. He's not interested in the guy's personal life. A lot of people, I think that's really telling again, because for me, I mean, Brad Pitt, whatever, I'm not a huge fan. But like Kevin Spacey, for instance, I was a big fan of Kevin Spacey. Loved his movies. Had a big, kind of fangirl crush on him, right? And then when it came out that he had been essaying and crossing boundaries with people that were sort of underlings or people that he could get into a position of having power over, not only did my opinion of him change, but my interest in watching his movies changed, because I can't see them in the same way anymore. It's not like it's a choice, like, oh, I'm going to decide whether or not I'm going to watch Kevin Spacey anymore. I can't watch Kevin Spacey anymore because I can't look past what I know about him, because it makes me feel sick inside to think of what he did. And the fact that John is able to just compartmentalize like that, again, it reveals more about John than he wanted us to know, I'm pretty sure. So moving on, I love me just the way that I am, 2415. Right? This is a really good point. Does this mean, he's referring again to the Brad Pitt scenario, does this mean that because of Dr. John's body of work, he himself can DV his wife? Yikes. Or that because of Lauren's body of work, she can abuse him, his child, or anyone else? If you take the Brad Pitt analogy, we can look the other way, as someone's work ethic is great. And by the way, they both stated that the devil does good work. Yeah, that's their humor. Again. So yeah, this is more of that, right? Like more of what Dr. John is revealing about himself here. And if you take to its logical conclusions the thing that he's saying, he is kind of giving permission to people to go and behave in whatever way they want, as long as their work can be considered good or worthy or excellent, as John is so fond of saying. So yeah, another good insight from I Love Me Just the Way I Am. Thank you for that. And Dr. Calamity Jan reminding me of a boyfriend I had in high school who pronounced it Calamity Jane when we were playing Trivial Pursuit one time. Anyway, that's irrelevant. So does Angelina Jolie's body of work give her any of the free passes Brad Pitt gets from his body of work? Again, another great observation that I did not make myself. But yeah, again, like if we follow on to its logical conclusion, then yes, she should do, according to Dr. John, she should get a pass. For anything that she's done that he doesn't like. So, but she clearly doesn't. So it's a great example of the one-sidedness of his thinking. So thank you for that, Dr. Calamity Jan, and thank you for reminding me of Jeff from high school. He was a lovely lad, and I was probably not as nice to him as I could have been. Sorry, Jeff. Okay, next, A Lighter of the Way. Mike get true. Yeah, okay, hang on. Seems that most of the others. Mike is consistently the one that I continue to follow. So he's talking about Mike O at that chapter. Seems that most of the others become problematic. For me, the thing that started to shift my vision of Lauren was her episode on Mormon stories. I don't know what it was, or if it was several things that just gave my intuition a push. After that, there were several issues that contributed to me choosing not to view their videos. It's really too bad because for a while it was one of my favorites. Again, though, I really appreciate that comment because I appreciate the fact it's kind of backing up what I was saying, right? People aren't willing to overlook bad behavior for content. And if you run across people that are and who talk about it the way Dr. John does, then pay attention to that, because it's telling you something about that person. And then we've got SpongeBob Squeeze over here, who says, love hidden true crime videos. I've been listening to them since the first podcast. Can't make any other judgments about their private personalities. I don't know them. So, I mean, that's fine. SpongeBob Squeeze. You don't have to make any judgments. The rest of us feel that we can. And this, to me, this is an example of the kind of cookie cutter morality or that people subscribe to, that means that they don't have to think very hard about the issues that are in front of them. So, yeah, we're going to see some more of that coming up. But anyway, that was sort of my point about that. This idea that I don't know them, so I can't talk about them. You shouldn't speak ill of the dead. These kind of Hallmark card aphorism type morality that is very often the kind of like people with the type of personalities that we've been talking about often sort of subscribe to this type of morality because they can trot it out and prove that they have moral standards without ever having to really think too hard about what any of it means. And very often it's just, I can't speak about SpongeBob Squeeze here, but very often that type of thing is self-serving. And it's a way of silencing people. So I don't know if that's what SpongeBob Squeeze was up to here, but I think that that statement is, you know, I'm not even sure why you would bother commenting unless it's to make other people feel bad. And I certainly don't feel bad. I think that it's really important that this stuff is coming out and that these people are being revealed for what they are, because I think it's that they can be like a cautionary tale, honestly, for other creators who maybe aren't thinking clearly about how their content might be landing for victims. Okay, so the Beachinator, the Beachinator, I think that's right. So, I unsubbed from HTC because of John's take on Richard Allen on the eve of the Delphi trial. I can't express how sickened I was by his complete lack of ethics. They didn't know basics and thought it was okay to make things up. John thinks people aren't smart enough to understand him, but the truth is he is speaking drivel unsupported by facts. So I tend to agree, at least on it, that, you know, certainly in this situation with the smear people thing, but also I had already unsubbed by the time the Richard Allen trial came along, but I have seen some videos by Sergio Denali, whose account I will link in the description. And he had me pretty much convinced that Richard Allen was innocent. And there were a lot, the reason I put this one in is because I feel like a lot of people, I don't feel like it, I noticed a lot of people commenting on the same one, that they were really upset by the way they covered the Richard Allen trial, and that my feeling about it is that they are in some ways, and I don't know how many ways, but they are beholden to the kind of to the powers that be. And if the powers that be say that Richard Allen is guilty, then they're going to say that Richard Allen is guilty, and they're going to do whatever they have to make it so, if you understand what I mean. So I think a lot of people picked up on that. And it's just another example to me of people being way more in tune with what's going on than Hidden True Crime was giving them credit So Southern Heathen 13 says his breakdown of Brad Pitt's career wasn't just odd, it was nonsensical. He used a lot of words to say that he didn't care if Brad Pitt assaulted his wife and children because John likes his movies. Imagine being so short on morals that the only thing that matters to you in life is the surface value of people and what they can do for you. That's what John values. That's what he gets from others. And that's exactly kind of what underlies a lot of what's gone on, is that these types of personalities are very, very transactional. And because of projection, they believe that everyone else is transactional too. So when they're kind of admitting very openly that transactional nature of their relationships, they don't realize that they're giving themselves away, because they are projecting onto you the idea that you do that too, right? So they think it's normal. So, yeah, like when people start talking like that, it's a really good indication that they are transactional, that their relationships are transactional by nature, and that you are about as important to them as the TV remote control when it's run out of batteries, right? Like if it doesn't work anymore, they don't need it. So, yeah, just keep that in mind. And from Bran Flaky. I was always reading that as Brian Flaky, but I get it now. Bran Flakes, like you're Bran Flaky. So anyway, lots of good comments from Bran Flaky, but this one I saved. So performative empathy is spot on. I fell for it completely until the 9-hour live, and I'm kicking myself because I was raised by someone who was perceived as someone, kind, loving, maternal, charismatic, fun, who was unrecognizable to the person they were to us, stepchildren. Annoyed I didn't recognize it. So I just want to say to anybody else who is kind of feeling that way, that like, don't be too hard on yourself about that. These people are confusing. And one of the things that people with empathy do is similar to what people without empathy do, is we project, right? So those people are busy projecting onto you that all relationships are transactional, and you're busy projecting onto them your own empathy and your own goodness. And so we have a tendency to kind of fill in the blanks for these people, make excuses for them, all that kind of stuff. And until they become, until a situation like this arises where they're suddenly under the microscope, and it becomes really clear, it's normal to assume that other people are like us. They do it, we do it. And if you don't immediately see it, it's not because you failed. It's because you have empathy and you're expecting to see something else. And when you don't see it, you kind of fill in the blanks to make it what you expect it to be. So just saying. I think a lot of people felt that way. They felt like they wanted to kick themselves, but just don't be hard on yourself about that if you're one of those people. So Carolina Hurtado 6634 says, another HTC production. That's how I viewed her 9-hour live stream. Lights, camera, action. And it was all staged, in my opinion. From Lauren crying in bed to the very end. Afterwards, to go behind Patreon and laugh about My Stalker to the Pinata Samurai Brad Pitt We Respond video. Lauren Matthias is holding the lit match and Dr. John is pouring the gasoline, together destroying and burning down their false kingdom. So yeah, there's a lot in there, but the main thing I wanted to kind of comment on is the lights, camera, action part, and I think that's it's very astute. That on some levels, it does feel very much like this is, that they're kind of off the cuff and they're genuinely upset and all that stuff. But on the other hand, it all feels like a performance, and it was a performance intended to get you to condemn Christina, to believe them, but also to get the clicks and the attention. So yeah, just another good comment, like another observation from people who are not falling for their grift, and it's rewarding to see it. So let me just look at what Brenda Kaufman said, because it's kind of long. Right, so she's talking about, it appears that LM has done things that could actually compromise trials, like when releasing the Alec Murdoch audio between him and his lawyer. Why would you release an audio you got your hands on when it was so clearly a court error and privilege? It's behavior like this that people dislike. And I think that's really true, right? Like this whole idea that she's so authentic and so much there for the victims is kind of belied by this behavior where she is willing to post things that may compromise the trial and have the victims ending up having to go through another trial or having, somebody acquitted, that kind of stuff. So to me, that kind of behavior speaks more to like trying to be first and trying to be the one with the breaking news, caring more about the breaking news than you care about the families. And for a channel that positions themselves as such, fighters for the underdog, it's really revealing. And I'm delighted to see people pointing this stuff out. Okay, so here we go from Quintessence1234. Lauren has done more than just report on what other people have done. She has had exclusive interviews on the channel with the parents of Stephen Stearns and many people in the Vallow Daybell trials, Delphi case, and many others. And yeah, so that's a good point. She's done more than just report on what take other people's reporting and reiterate it. She has, in fact, situated herself close to victims and insinuated herself in their lives in such a way that they begin to trust her at the time in their lives when, they don't know if they're coming or going. Like, I am not a fan of Stephen Stearns' parents. I think that they enabled their son so much that he literally became the person that he is, in large part due to their negligent parenting. But also, it was not in their best interests to do that interview. And it was unscrupulous of Lauren to have them there, to just sort of generally be torn apart by viewers at a time when they must have been reeling. Like, I am aware that they had some responsibility, but neither one of them was involved in the unaliving of Madeline Soto. And the whole thing to me just absolutely stunk. So yeah, maybe they got those interviews. But did you ever wonder, Quintessence, if they should have got those interviews? Something to think about. And here we got Viridian Carvalho 9209. So she has opinions. We're going to see her more than once. She says, do me a favor and be honest with yourself. You jumped into this subgenre bandwagon of Let's Trash Lauren, cyberbullying, and harassment mob campaign to monetize and get new subscribers. Trying your best not to look shallow and petty at the same time. It's as simple as that. I don't agree, Viridiana Carvalho, but you're entitled to your opinion. So, just to say that, people are not always going to agree with everything that I say, and that's okay with me, as long as you're not abusive. I'll probably tolerate your silly opinions. So the next one is a similar Thunder Snow Dog. So you got a YouTube channel just to smear a woman who got stalked and harassed and tried to protect herself. So just to say, no, that's not why I got a YouTube channel. That was the timing. This was the episode that got me to actually make a video instead of yelling at my screen, which is what I generally do. And yeah, in some ways I am thankful to Lauren, because it was her silliness and Dr. John's silliness that got me off my butt and making videos. So anyway, the narcissist group of flying monkeys out to help destroy their victim is always the biggest tell. So she's calling me a flying monkey. The pattern never changes. I've always wondered how pathetic someone's life has to be to relegate themselves to the flying monkey to be a bully, curious or incurious. Or so again, it's like, this is more projection stuff. And, attacking me and telling me that I'm pathetic and that my life is pathetic and all of that. So that's fine. I mean, again, there's going to be those people. There are plenty of them. And, my opinion about these types of people is, so they may be just victims that haven't kind of come over to the light side yet. Or they could just be types that have these sort of same traits, and are eager to defend someone that they see who is like they are, right? They don't see anything wrong with their own bad behavior, so they're defending other people with bad behavior. Now, I don't know either of those two people, so I can't say that for sure, but I have observed the kind of hierarchy of narcissists. And flying monkeys aren't always just, sort of victims who are in the thrall of the narcissist. They're often narcissists themselves, although I call them lesser narcissists. And they protect the lead narcissist, because as long as that person is getting away with stuff, it means that they can continue to get away with stuff. So that's my take on that. And we're back to, I think, this is Jean again from the first one. So we're in part 2 now. And she says, licensed psychologist here, and please know that he is nothing like my peers. I believe this song and dance that Babe is performing here is only to save his own behind. He is so terrified that he will lose easy money he has come to rely on. Excuse me. Thanks, Jean. I think you're right. And again, I'm just happy to see the psychologists in the comments, because also, like, I think that John is kind of he's kind of giving psychologists a bad name. And I personally think that psychologists are really important, that therapy is really important, that most people can benefit from therapy at some point in their life. And so I'm happy to see people speaking up on behalf of psychologists. So that's why I added that one. So Maisie Wupp. Yeah, so she's saying, I think you hit the nail on the head with the allusion to royalty. I get the impression that this pair consider themselves to be a cut above the other true crime content creators, and are coming to the sad realization that they are one channel among thousands, and that riding on the doctor title is not an automatic meal ticket. Yeah, there's competition out there, and she should get over it and lose the inflated sense of entitlement and the chip on the shoulder. Some journalists, some psychiatrists, if their skin is so thin. And again, like, I agree with that wholeheartedly. The only thing is, for me, she should get over it and lose the inflated sense of entitlement is the chance of that happening is slim to nothing. In my experience, people like this don't change. They just reinvent themselves in some other way. So, like I mentioned, that Belle Gibson, that influencer who claimed to have stage 4 cancer, and it was all a lie. She reinvented her, when all that stuff came out, she reinvented herself as, she's involved in the campaign to save Ethiopia, and now this is her, this is where she's getting her kudos and her kicks from, is being this activist on the side, again, of the downtrodden, and whatever. So I suspect that if all of this does result in Lauren and John being hounded off of YouTube, they'll just reinvent themselves in some other incarnation of entitlement. But yeah, I do agree that that's what she should do, but I think it's very unlikely that she will do. So Sherry4359 says, I have a much bigger problem with PhD John. I refuse to call him doctor than I do with Lauren. He is either completely wrong and unethical or intentionally misleading about not just his background, but his theories, his name dropping, and his opinions. He was not a professor, but in a volunteer adjunct position at a college university. He couldn't even land a paid position. He's so pompous and arrogant and has long been a punchline for truly respected professionals in the true crime arena. So again, I agree with that. But again, it's like this is exactly the reason I put this out there, is because this is what these kind of people do, right? If you've seen the videos that have just been released, the most recent Boise video with the body cam with Lauren and Grayson, it is my opinion that a big part of the reason that cop was so deferential to them was because Lauren was claiming to be a reporter. And then she was belittling, Christina wasn't there, but the others, as trial tourists. And I can't help thinking, personally, that if she had told the cop that she was a YouTuber, that he might have had a very different take on the whole situation. So she's giving herself airs, and I think that that's what John does too, right? So they use these credentials to make themselves look like they're more than they actually are. And you want to watch out for that. So good observation, Sherry. Thanks for commenting. So next at BGPOJ3G. They give so that they can take. Wonderful statement. This thumbs up these two to a T. Thank you for coining this phrase for me. I've been trying to figure them out for a while now. So yeah. It took me most of my life to figure them out, and I did not figure them out on my own. I was aware of, patterns and bad behavior and all sorts of things, but I had not by any means understood who and what I was dealing with. And understanding that these types of personalities give so that they can take is super, super important in unraveling the confusion that we often feel in the face of them, because they can be very, very good at mimicking empathy. Certainly they have cognitive empathy, that they know when they're supposed to feel sad. They know when they should feel sorry for you. And they do understand those things. They just don't feel them. So, and they are very aware that generosity pays dividends. So, it's an important thing to keep in mind when you're dealing with people like that. So next, Ancient Teapot. So Ancient Teapot says, I'm so glad that I'm not alone in being annoyed by Dr. Babe's assumption that none of us have read the Greeks or classical literature or have a psychological grasp and vocabulary or know how to watch a movie, right? And maybe that's a little petty one for me to put in there, but I totally agree. Like, he is so condescending. Like when he was talking about the 12 Monkeys movie, like, not a lot of people have seen this movie, but I have, because I am so interested in the developing talent of Brad Pitt, and excellence is so important to me. So just explaining to you, I lost my words, but anyway, yeah, I find him super pompous and annoying that way. And he doesn't realize, like, he thinks that he's impressing people and he's putting them off. So again, lack of empathy to be aware of how he's coming across. Next we have Sami Savta. I've been passively watching this train wreck after zero knowledge or any previous interactions with any of these people. I'm near the end of this stream, and all I have to say is if they want to know what actual threats to gas chambers look like, I receive them every time I go on social media just for existing as a Jewish person in 2025. These people are supposed to be professionals. They are clearly trauma grifters for clicks and cash. And yes, thank you for weighing in, Sami Savta. Yeah, it's similar to stolen valor, you know, this business of equating yourself with real victims to get sympathy is despicable, in my opinion. And for John to have compared Lauren, or have suggested that, you know, all of this is part and parcel of what led up to the gas ovens in Germany is it's beyond unscrupulous. It's just more evidence of that lack of empathy and that lack of awareness that we're talking about. So thank you for that, Sami Savta, and I'm incredibly sorry to hear that this is your reality in 2025. And this is why I think partly why so much of this conversation is necessary, because of the rhetoric that is so easily slung around on the internet. So Dream on Cutie, that's what I'm calling you. What I heard John saying is it's totally okay. We don't have to be moral. You can still enjoy our content. The fact that they are morally unethical and have no integrity as people that doesn't affect us when we're listening to their content because their content is good. I'm sorry, but I cannot support somebody who victimizes the victims, people who lie and abuse the court process. Christina needs to sue. That would be holding them accountable. So again, this is, I think a lot of people feel this way. And that, again, John had no idea what he was, the can of worms he was opening with his whole, Brad Pitt may be abusing his wife, but I don't care about that. I'm just interested in his acting excellence. I don't think he had any idea the kind of reaction that was going to get from people. And Hypocrisy, this is a great one. My husband would defend me to the ends of the earth if I was right. If I was doing this, he'd be so on me to put things right. And excellent observation. Other people have made comments, and I've seen at least one comment saying, oh, she's lucky to have someone who will defend her. You know, that's what you're supposed to do, etc., etc. And I just don't agree with that. I think that Hypocrisy is lucky to have someone who keeps her honest, and that we all need that. You know, we can all get a little high on our own supply, especially when we're achieving a certain amount of success. I mean, look at Elon Musk again as an example, right? He seems to think that he can do no wrong and that he should be in charge of the entire planet based on the success that he's had through mostly buying other people's companies and taking over what other people have actually done. But, the kind of success that he had led him to think that he is always right, and he is surrounded by sycophants and yes men who won't tell him when he's wrong because he'll fire them. And Lauren and John are kind of a smaller version of that, to my mind. Elon Musk is an example of that very principle-run riot. So next we have Steph sells stuff by the seashore. If you live where I live, you're down on the seashore selling beers and joints. Okay, so she completely showed her true level of integrity and lost the entire LGBT community with accepting a good chicken sandwich. And this entire thing just shows how stupid they think their audience is, right? So I agree with that. I thought that was a huge tell when she was like, she started out, that's the thing of like where I'm talking about the cognitive empathy, like, and the awareness, like they know the difference between right and wrong, right? Lauren knows that that discriminating against the LGBTQ community is wrong, and so she was willing to say, oh, I'm gonna boycott, is it Chick-fil-A, because of that. And but 2 seconds later, she was ready to cede that ground to John because of his argument about, their product should be divorced from their morality. And it took her exactly, whatever it was, like 20 seconds to change her principled stance. So to me, that speaks of like the awareness that she should have a principled stance, but the desire to have what she wants being superseding that really quickly as soon as John gave her that permission. So good example, good comment, and I support LGBTQ rights, trans rights are human rights, all of that sort of thing. So thank you for commenting, Steph. And we're moving on to Bridget 2024. It's 9:40 in the morning here in Germany, so good morning. I enjoy your video with a cup of coffee. So Bridget is not the only person to have commented and said that they're from somewhere. I have an international audience, so look at me. But that's not my point so much as what I was saying earlier about, I feel like this issue of this accountability, consequences for bad behavior, this, sort of entitlement and toxic behavior is, this is the issue of our time. And I don't think it's not just here in North America where, Trump is kind of leading the way by being completely unaccountable for his behavior and setting an example for all the other people who would like to do that and get away with it. It's a worldwide phenomenon right now. And, you look at people like Bibi Netanyahu, who is literally committing a genocide in front of the entire world and getting away with it. So yeah, that's just my point. Like, this is not just like, oh, it's a mean girl fight. This is serious, the serious business of being a human, and not harming others, as a byproduct of getting what you want. And that used to be a commonly held value, and I would like it to be that way again. And so I can see why there are so many people getting caught up in this, because a lot of people are feeling that the society and the world that they know has been kind of irrevocably destabilized by this era that we're in now, and the rise of authoritarians is frightening, right, for everybody. So just to say thank you for your comment, Brigitte. You're super welcome here. Brigitte, I'm not sure. But yeah, we're all in it together. And it's easy to forget that sometimes. So here we go. So Pegster Vegas. Okay, my second observation is that she married what she saw as intelligence and he married a look, each of them attempting to make up for some perceived lack in themselves. Right? Astute observation. I think, again, this is that transactional nature of relationships of these type of people. I will lend you my intelligence and you can lend me your looks, and together we can, do this grift. I think that's a very astute observation. So thanks for that, Pegster Vegas. She says also, I have no background in anything that gives me credibility to say that. It's my observation as an adult human being, right? So, yeah, we're not all psychologists who don't have the, I mean, in some ways, Dr. John is handicapped by being a psychologist because he should definitely not be diagnosing people, whereas people like you and me, adult human beings with common sense, we're sort of free to give our opinions. And that we're not breaking any ethical code of conduct by doing so. So moving on to Meaty Peach says, this is the kind of thing that makes me wonder if John and Lauren have met human beings and experienced how other people function, or if they've just read about and studied them without having much meaningful interaction. Kind of like Mork and Mindy or Third Rock from the Sun, but depressing instead of funny. So I laughed when I read that because, yeah. Now I want to be careful how I talk about this because Dr. John likes to accuse us of dehumanizing Lauren. And it's not my intention to do that. But what I want to, the observation I have is that if you are a person who has functioning empathy and you come across a person who does not, that the way that that person behaves and functions and perceives the world can feel very, very alien. And, I used to say about my extremely toxic sister that and this is years and years, decades before I understood narcissistic traits, toxic personalities, cluster B personalities, all that stuff. I used to say it's like trying to talk to someone with a plexiglass barrier in between. Like there's just constantly this push-pull of not kind of getting it. And to me, that's what Meaty Peach is describing here, is that sense of dealing with an alien in some way. And again, I want to be very clear that these people are not aliens. They are human beings who have, there's no across the board thing of saying this is how these people are developed, but very often they have come from trauma and abuse themselves, and that has caused them to develop in this way. And it's a very human way to develop when you have been abused at the tender stage of developing. So it can feel very alien, but these are humans. But this is what happens when you abuse humans. So thanks for sharing, Meaty Peach. I think that was a great it was a great observation. And it also made me think of Robin Williams, who was such an empathetic soul, that I think that's partly why he was so good at playing Mork, because he could really read the room, and he really got it. He really got people. And then the next comment sort of ties in with this one. Moira Slater says, if anything, people are trying to get Lauren to humanize rather than trying to dehumanize her. And I thought, yeah, that's really astute, actually. And it's literally the opposite of what Dr. John was saying. And it's way more on point than John's comments about dehumanization, particularly in light of Duty Ron's subhuman comments that he made about Lauren's detractors. So I think I'm going to cover that video next, because I would like to, somebody has suggested it, and also I just would like to, again, go through it and untangle the nonsense. So, Rain Smart says, new subscriber here. I'm so shocked and disgusted by John. No longer calling him doctor. A lot of people have said that they won't give him the professional designation, and I don't blame them. I always liked listening to him. He was the reason I subscribed. Excuse me. There was always something about her that I couldn't couldn't put my finger on what it was. Just something that was way off. They are not the people I thought they were. So yeah, this is, I'm not sure exactly what my specific thing was about this, but it's just more of the same, right? People kind of, like John has this idea that people can't take new information and change their mind. And I have seen a ton of information, a ton of comments in the comment section that refute that suggest that people did change their mind. I listened to that 9-hour live and to this response video, and I changed my mind, right? And I saw a lot of people talking about that and the process that they went through. So thanks for that, Raina Smart. Carolyn Weaver, 6831. I do have to disagree that John is not supporting her, but rather he is the instigator. It seems very clear that he is leading this delusion. He rarely lets her talk, he corrects her, and he doesn't reflect anything she says. Rather, he just moves back to his own agenda. Could he be enjoying the drama? Could he be enjoying being the expert and the explainer of all things stalking to Lauren? She is so absolutely panic-stricken at times over this lady that seems pretty harmless. It's wild to me. It's obvious that she has a very high opinion of him and his intellect, and I'm not sure that he has the same opinion of her. And again, like, just a really astute observations, all of it. Certainly, I didn't really comment much on it. I was commenting on the content of what Dr. John was saying, but certainly throughout the whole video, the discomfort and the lack of kind of connectedness between them, and the obvious irritation that John felt at being interrupted either by Grayson or Lauren, when Lauren was twittering on about, yeah, I think Brad Pitt's cute and I like his movies, but I mean, I don't, you know, like, you could see that she had started into this sentence and was like trying to back out of it without sounding like a complete idiot, because she was picking up on the fact that John was like not amused. And I have to say that the first time I ever watched them, I was thinking back and I'd kind of forgotten, but the first time I ever watched them, I recall her calling him babe a few times and stuff, and just seeming like that he had a really cold response. And I remember wondering if he abused her behind the scenes. So as time has gone on and I can see more of what Lauren is really like, you know, I suspect there's a fair amount of kind of back and forthing over who's in charge. Partly because of what the earlier comment about, you know, she got the intellect and he got the beauty. And depending on, you know, whose talents are needed in that moment, the other person is belittled because of it. So, yeah. Donna Lena 1 says, as if John has the authority to define what another person's intentions are, he's creating an enemy from whole cloth. Lauren is sitting there looking like she has a secret that threatens to swallow her whole. I'm waiting for the day when her secret flies free. Yeah, this kind of... I can't remember what I wanted to say about this, but it's kind of more of just the same observation that John is kind of running this show, this particular one, in a big way, and that he is excuse me, he's stoking the flames of her histrionic response. Mystic7275, all deflection, baffle them with BS. In my opinion, she wanted to have a mother of 4 arrested for TikTok posts that don't name Elle or threaten her in any way. So Elle, knowing where C would be, bought a ticket to CrimeCon, got a TRO late enough so no hearing could take place, had Detective Bobby Joe send an email to police securing event riddled with police security, event riddled with untruths, and intended to being in every location C was, and had her removed. Sorry, that was a bit of... I had trouble reading that. I think there was some typos there, but... then in her declaration stated C violated each of those times. L was the stalker from what I see. Diabolical. So yeah, diabolical. I definitely think that she was plotting to get Christina. arrested at CrimeCon, and that everything that she did, including the Proton email that nobody has ever seen again except for in her 9-hour live, they were all plans to kind of try to show an escalation of events that would mean it was inevitable that Christina should be arrested. And yeah, it was a plot. I genuinely think it was a plot. So, good observation, Mystic 7275. So Katerina 459, paraphrasing Dr. John, quoting somebody else. People who commit acts of violence do so believing their victims have done something wrong, stated in the context of clearly trying to imply people who believe somebody else has done something wrong are going to commit acts of violence. Right? The logic of this argument boils down to all A are B, all B are A. All gala apples are apples equals all apples are gala apples. And that, again, great observation of the unethical and deliberate attempts to obfuscate the truth by using false equivalents, among other things, appeal to authority, etc. Somebody else has commented on that, so we're going to hear more about that. So B. Lumencraft says, many narcissists are 4-year-olds. Some make it to 14 before the decision is made to not become a person. However, emotional development stops here. That's where they keep staying all their lives. Again, I thought that was a really astute observation too, because of excuse me, John's insistence on comparing all of this to Gabriel, the 4-year-old herder, and adolescents Becky and Victoria from the Thought Experiment. And, like very probably just unconsciously kind of reproducing exactly this, right? The abuse that causes the end of any kind of, psychological, emotional, not intellectual, but psychological and emotional development. So thanks for that, Lumencraft. Charming Frock 101. John's doctrinal thesis was on domestic violence, so I didn't know that. Very interesting. It's posted online. I found the link. I had thought well of John and Lauren because they were only YouTubers that caught right away how chilling the video of Gabby Petito and Brian Laundrie was. Yeah, so to hear John go on and on about how he doesn't care what Brad Pitt did, he still supports him, is shocking to me. So to find out that that was his thesis, that DV was the subject of his thesis, makes it even more shocking because, like, literally, if anybody should know better, it should be the guy who did his thesis on DV, and yet here he is. So, again, it's just more evidence of the lack of self-awareness, lack of self-reflection, lack of empathy, inability to see how one is perceived. And then we've got Moon Age Supernova. John's analysis is very Psychology 101. He references the Stanford Prison Experiment at one point, which anyone who has taken one class in psychology would know has been debunked. So yeah, I actually knew that and had forgotten about it when he was talking about that, but I was so busy rolling my eyes, you'll have to forgive me. But also I wanted to comment on this because of his inclusion of the Milgram experiments as well, where people were willing to shock other people because somebody in a lab coat told them to, and that wasn't evidence of them being bad people, but evidence of them being in a situation that made them act in ways that they normally wouldn't have. And I think I recall that it was all kind of in aid of understanding why people followed orders from Nazis during World War II. Like, why did people do what they were told? And I'm going to go ahead and say personally that I think that people who are willing to shock other people until they're screaming in pain because somebody in a white lab coat tells them to are bad people. It's not the situation. It's a lack of integrity. Because you would not catch me doing that for love or money. You would literally have to shock me until I was screaming to make me do something like that to anyone. Even to someone like Lauren or Dr. John. So, just saying, I thought that his, reference to those experiments was pointless anyway. But yeah. So again, this is a big one. This is from Joe Raz, and I actually pinned this one because it was such a great. I'm not going to read the whole thing out, but I'll you can read it while it's here, and you can pause if you want to read the whole thing. But it's a great example of the process that people went through from having been fans of Hidden True Crime to unsubbing from them altogether. And the fact that she was willing to go through all of this process, to write it all out, to put it all here for us to read, to me that speaks to how much this matters to people. How much of a disservice John is doing, not only by lying and hiding about what they've been doing, but by acting like Christina's a stalker or whatever, is he's completely dismissing the process that people have gone through to get to this point and how much it matters to people, right? How much it matters. So have a read through this if you're interested to see somebody else's process and how they got to where they got to. I just think it's really telling about this whole issue and how thirsty people are for understanding, for accountability, for consequences. So thanks for sharing that, Joe Raz. I understand that it takes time and effort to write all that out, and I appreciate that you were willing to do that and to share that with everybody. Nerd Love 1071 said, it always bothers me when people act like the Stanford prison experiment gave some insights into human behavior. So yeah, more of that. All the participants were white male college students. When similar experiments were done, including women and other types of people, the outcomes were different. All the Stanford experiment proved is that middle-aged, upper-class young white men are easily led into monstrous behavior. When people like Dr. John say that this experiment proved something about people, they are assuming that young white men are people and the rest of us aren't. So just more of the same. Yeah, thank you for that. It's to me, this ties into what I was saying in the videos about people having the integrity to say, that within the parameters of this experiment, this is what we can conclude. And the parameters were, as this person, as Nerd Love has pointed out, young white American men. So the only thing the study could tell you is something about those particular people in that particular setting at that particular time, and you cannot extrapolate that to all of humanity. And again, it's just more examples of John's intellectual dishonesty. Part 3. Donna Lena, again, she's had quite a few good comments. So she says, John is a thinly veiled authoritarian thinker. And I think that's true to a certain extent. And I think he takes the theories and research from his books and he sort of takes it wholesale. It feels like he's not able to interpret it, right? So he takes that as gospel and then he spreads it as gospel. And to me, that is, right, like without being able to think about it and put your own, not spin necessarily, but your own understanding to it, to be able to draw from your own life experience and kind of explain things in a larger way, would be very different than what he does. And I also just wanted to comment on the fact that, authoritarianism is on the rise, but also that quite a large percentage of the population has what they call an authoritarian personality, which means not that they are authoritarian themselves in terms of telling other people what to do, but that they are not comfortable unless they have a black and white view of the world that they can easily put themselves in the right, so that there doesn't have to be nuance and shades of gray, and they're more comfortable if they've got some authoritarian figure or authoritarian text, like the Bible, for instance, that can tell them exactly what to do. And John's insistence on the good-evil binary is, I think, evidence that he's an authoritarian thinker. There's lots of people like that. Lots of them are on the political right. Okay, so moving on. Amanda Higgins 2683. This despicable duo had her on their podcast and announced they were selling t-shirts with what she said on the stand. So she's talking about Lori. So I don't recall her being on their actual podcast, but yeah. Excuse me. It was don't flatter yourself. Point is, when I asked if they were sharing the profits with the witness who said it, Lauren had nothing to say, even though she was actively answering others. I suspect they would keep them for themselves, but was hoping I was wrong. Hoping they would share with her or the victims of the crime they made so much off. Nope, not these two. Their greed is off the charts. So yeah, I kind of think that's true. Like, as far as merchandise goes, for true crime creators, I do feel like there's a line that needs to be kind of respected in terms of making money off of the crime. You know what I mean? Like, I feel like if you want to sell, like, off a particular crime, which to me means at the expense of victims. So, like, if you want to sell merch that has your logo on it, or your tagline or something, like, for me, my thing that I say is consequences are my love language. So if I wanted to make t-shirts and mugs and tote bags that said Dreadful Penny True Crime, consequences are my love language, that's my tagline, and Dreadful Penny True Crime is my channel. So those are, to me, that seems okay. But if I wanted to start, I don't know, I just feel like, there was kind of a lot of that going on. And I think you got to be careful about crossing that line as a creator. It's all very nice and good that everybody's laughing and wearing their Don't Flatter Yourself shirts, but that all came at a cost, right? That moment that we all enjoyed in the trial when Nancy Joe, I think it was her name, told Lori off. I still think that those moments, in a way, kind of belong to the family. And we need to back off of that. And so Donna Lena, again, she's commented on the same thing. She's responded to Amanda. She says, after the witness Nancy Joe, who dated Charles Vallow, once came back with a smart quip, I literally thought that Lauren would climb over everyone else in order to interview her. Surprise, the next day Lauren had thumbnails of herself hugging Nancy Joe as if they were intimate friends. Totally in character with her brand. So yeah, again, that's more of that opportunism, I guess. And wanting to interview witnesses is part of journalism, and I get that. But Lauren has made herself grubby. So yeah, it's reasonable that people are sort of questioning what she's doing to get these interviews. So this one, Joanne. So this is, I mean, it sounds like I'm tooting my own horn here, but I want to comment. So she says, love your commentary. Even after having decided I had spent enough time on this abhorrent duo, you're adding something to the conversation that I find enjoyable. So I just want to say that I think that it's I think that Joanne is, or Joan, sorry, Joan, is pointing out here just how much people are actually interested in this conversation, just how much there kind of is to say about all of this. It's easy to dismiss it as everybody jumping on the bandwagon to get their 2 minutes of fame or whatever. But I do think that this is a really important conversation, and I think it's really timely. And I'm delighted that people are finding my take on this helpful. So thanks for that, Joan. And again, from Ancient Teapot, sort of more of the same, right? She says, gosh, I'm so glad you started your channel. She, he, I'm not sure. And the algorithm delivered it to me. You say all the things I've been silently shouting at the screen, and it's quite a relief. So I think that sums that up for a lot of people. It's a relief to have this kind of untangled and to feel like, you know, that your misgivings weren't, that there was a reason for them, and that that your intuition is working properly. It's a balm to people, right? And it's important. Like, we are all struggling. And a lot of us are struggling because of the fact that people in privileged positions are not being accountable. So I think that's important, and I'm glad that people are speaking up and saying how much it means to them, because I think this is a very important conversation, and I don't want it to be dismissed as mean girls and bandwagon jumping. So thank you. And then tortoise interference. This one just made me laugh, and I think that we're entitled to laugh. He says, John, is this stalking? And then proves it by saying yes, right? It's like, that's basically what he's doing. He is, yeah, and it's a good observation, right? Because we can be baffled by professionals and just go along with what they say because we have already given them credibility before they even start talking because of their credentials, right? So, good observation. And then Laura Taylor, I got two from Laura Taylor in a row here. She says, if she is in such danger, why is she flying to an event where everyone hates her, right? And it's a really great observation that Lauren was hoping that we wouldn't notice, because she has created the spectacle of the arrest and the, the police, bringing the police in and everything. But yeah, why is she? If she's so terrified that she has leaked her terror onto her 8-year-old son, why is she going to a place that's full of people she's terrified of? It doesn't make logical sense. And then the other comment that Laura Taylor made says, thank the gods Christina was white, so things would be very different in my opinion. And I just wanted to highlight that because, yeah, right? Like, we're talking about John and all his, virtuous violence, and that these people are they're going to end up, Lauren is going to end up dead, and they won't be happy until she ends up dead. When reality, we know that it was Lauren that brought violence into it by calling the police. And if any of you have any awareness, I'm sure most, all of you do, of what it's like to be a black person in the United States right now. Driving while black, existing while black, doing anything while black is risky. And getting the cops called on you when you're black can very easily result in things like the George Floyd incident, where The police were called on him because of a counterfeit $20 bill, and he died because of that. So I don't think this is a small issue, and I'm really glad that Laura mentioned it, because when people like what's her name, Sherry Papini, are out there thoughtlessly making up their stories and blaming Hispanic women for things that never happened, it's without thinking, like, it's to her benefit to make up this story, and without thinking about what that's doing to, what's that implying about an entire race of people, and the potential for people who aren't the people that she's made up to be attacked and arrested by police as suspects, all that sort of thing. So weaponizing the police is a bad look, Lauren. And I agree with Laura Taylor that things could have gone very differently if Christina was black. So moving on to Bakota. The actual TikTok sound bit called it a false kingdom. In my opinion, that makes it even more obvious that the metaphor means that Lauren's lies will be exposed. Right? Like, as if it wasn't completely obvious anyway. It's so obviously a metaphor. So good call, Bakota. Thanks for pointing that out. Story Harmon. I can't help but see the similarity between this couple's dynamics and Lori and Chad's dynamic. Lori was wooed by what she perceived as Chad's spiritual superiority. Lauren was attracted to what she perceived as John's expertise, education, and credentials. Both women felt elevated by having these men see them as their dream ideal women. When I watched the engagement video they shared, it totally had vibes of Lori and Chad's beach wedding. And another great observation. And there have been many, like this is the one that I've taken here, but a lot of people have noted that similarity. And I mean, once you see it, you will see it more and more. And there are patterns, and they are very recognizable, and they show up in very similar ways. And keep your eyes open, because through all of this, you may begin to learn to spot these people even more easily than you do now. So, Love Always Redacted says, thank you. Honesty is the first step toward finding solution. It allows for a clear-eyed assessment of what went wrong so that the effective action can be taken to mitigate the impact of the mistake. So I do feel... I don't see them doing that. But I do feel that there is a curative, and that the curative is honesty and openness and willingness to learn and see where you went wrong, and willingness to do better. I don't think that's going to happen. The level of maturity required to do that is well beyond what Lauren or Dr. John possess. But yes, good observation. So Angie Moritz says, my question is, why is he reading the law's definitions from the UK? This is the US. And then AKA the cat lady, these are together because it's the same, says, this part of the re-respond video was particularly offensive and anger-inducing because this part of the video has John being the most intellectually dishonest and manipulative. When John brings in UK laws on stalking and cyberstalking, he's actively gaslighting the viewers regarding the definition of stalking. UK laws regarding free speech are extremely different from US laws. So, AKA the cat lady had already posted this when I mentioned it in the video, and I hadn't clocked to that. So it was actually this post from AKA the cat lady that had me mention it. And at the time that I was mentioning it, I had no memory of who had said it. So I just wanted to give credit where it was due for that, because it is extremely intellectually dishonest. And for people who are not aware that the laws in the UK around free speech are really different, it would be easy to fall for John saying, this is the definition of stalking all over the world, in the UK, Australia, without acknowledging that free speech laws are very different in those countries. So thank you for that, aka Cat Lady. And again, here, this one. It took me way too long to realize that Chocolate Chip 12. It took me way too long to realize that the thumbnail wasn't Chad and Lori, right? It's that vibe. Excuse me. These people give off a vibe. And if you get good enough, your central nervous system will tell you when you are dealing with them. Victorious Gavi 7736 says, Charlatan John seems to have a decent vocabulary at times, making him sound like he knows what he's talking about, but his inability to analyze behavior accurately has shocked me in numerous cases. It has made me question the validity of the profession at times. I do think his skills should be reviewed by a professional board. His ethics certainly need to be examined at the very least. And again, I'm bringing this one up for the same thing, right? It has made me question the validity of the profession. Like, that is the fallout for this. Like, they think that they're just saving themselves. And they have no idea of the number of people who have been affected by this behavior. And if people are thinking that they shouldn't go see a psychologist when they need help because of John, that's really problematic, right? I mean, we all need therapy. Yeah, so thanks for that, Victorious Gabby. I think that's a great point. Laura Taylor, again, she's had some good ones. So if anyone called my associates and said she is bad, they would laugh and hang up. So yeah, again, like Lauren giving herself away and not realizing it, right? Like, if you are who you claim to be, then people who are close to you are going to know that, and they're not going to fall for the smear campaigns. So yeah, I think we can see from Christina that one of her TikToks where she talks about how she made all these great friends from this because they all came to the realization together that actually Christina's really that Lauren's like terrible and that they're all really great and they should be hanging out together. So yeah. Never Settle 111 says both John and Lauren behave in the cluster B category in the DSM. John is the one that wants to and feels as if he is the smartest person in the room, especially when he reads from his books, right? The concepts are rarely on point and well beyond what is required. His application of such condors, I'm not sure what that means, are typically retrofitted to support his argument, which it really does. They're a sham. Yeah. I think that's true. The cluster B personality traits are pretty obvious. And the one that we haven't mentioned is Machiavellianism. And I do think that Lauren's plot to get Christina arrested at CrimeCon is evidence of that Machiavellianism in her personality. So, and then Celeste Price 5258, if Lauren wanted it to stop, she would stop giving them stuff to post. So I think that there is some truth in that. I commented that they could calm the rhetoric there's lots they could do to calm things down, and it seems like John is stoking the flames. But also, I wanted to comment on the tendency of these type of personalities. So they have an external locus of control or whatever. Like, they need outside input in order to feel good enough about themselves that they don't decompensate and end up, with unaliving ideations, right? Self-unaliving ideations. Now, obviously, they prefer good attention. They prefer everyone to think that they're really awesome. Not all of them, but a lot of them. But if the only attention they can get is bad attention, they'll take it, because even if the attention is bad, it's a symbol. It symbolizes that they're important. So Lauren will be getting supply from all of this, right? The fact that the whole of the true crime community is talking about her is going to be evidence to her of how important she is. So I think that's a really astute observation because of that. So Melissa Walker says, another thing that's making me nuts about this argument they're putting forth is the way they want to have this pro-law enforcement yet non-conformist seesaw. If Christina is antisocial for questioning law enforcement, but Lauren is some crusader for nonconformity, how does that wash for them? Why did they think we can't hear them? Do they subscribe to the idea that as long as they speak with conviction and leverage appeal to authority tactics with John's degree, that we can't hear the words they're using? Nearly every line of narrative that he goes down in some way contradicts or is incongruent with the others, many of which you've pointed out quite brilliantly, which I've appreciated. Thanks again. So yeah, right? I know I commented on this, that they were very big supporters of law enforcement as long as law enforcement was on their side. But yeah, exactly, right? Lauren's this this nonconformist fighting the peer pressure, but Christina's antisocial for doing the same thing. So yeah, great observation, Melissa. Thanks for sharing. Claire Gray says the slow talking and enunciation from John is so incredibly cringe. Did this man have any self-awareness? I'm going to say no. You would think they would have removed this video. It is so insanely embarrassing for them, all three of them. And again, to me, this is evidence of their lack of empathy and their inability to see how they come across. Coupled with the clicks, the money, the attention, all the rest of it. This is how we end up with a dumpster fire, because their motivations are messy. Mrs. Always Right is back again. Apparently she's got some things to say that I agree with. I feel like you're taking the words right out of my mouth. These two are so insufferable. I never understood what people saw in their content in the first place. It feels good to know my initial feelings were correct. So again, just another example of how much it means to people to have their feelings validated and to be able to kind of pick this apart and understand what's going on. It matters. Consequences matter. Being able to see through the BS matters. And that's why people are here, and that's why they're so engaged with this. So we are back with Viridiana Carvalho, who was nasty before, and she's got some more nasty things to say here. So if you find that it is totally normal to go to HTC account to check their earnings and share that to others later, to lie that you are planning to your dying brother, defamation punishment. I'm not going to read all this. If you find that not a sickly, dangerous stalking, cyberbullying, whomsoever whitewash the horrendous things Psycho CM did against Lauren Matthias is the one who sounds cultish and drank the Kool-Aid. So thanks for sharing, Viridiana Carvalho. The projection is pretty awesome. So thanks for commenting, though. All the engagement helps. So moving on to part 4, I am Grillsy says, their response only makes sense if she feels guilty of something. And I think that is a very astute observation. So if she feels guilty of something that Christina is raising, which she said she does, she made Grayson go through her whole phone checking and then text people apologies. I think that the number one thing that's breaking Lauren is not that Christina has snide texts, but that the people Christina reached out to didn't back her. Even Lauren says that everyone turned their back on her. She wasn't allowed in rooms she used to be. People weren't reaching out to her. Yeah, I mean, the terror that she's experiencing is the terror of being caught out. And yeah, like if you watch any of those behavior channels, the behavior panel, Sergio Denali, who I mentioned before, Deception Detective, A lot of those accounts that do behavior analysis, this is it, right? Innocent people don't act this way, right? And her behavior is very telling from that point of view. So yeah, thanks, I Am Grillsy. I think that's a great observation. And Cookie La 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 says, yes, he has a PhD from USC and undergrad from Princeton. I located both theses, but what I can't locate are any peer-reviewed publications. None. To be an expert in a field, you need publications. So technically, he's not an expert on anything, right? More evidence of what we were talking about before, of like bigging up their qualifications, pretending to be something that they're not in order to get credit and kudos and all the rest of it, like Lauren pretending to be a reporter to the cop when she's a YouTuber, and it's not the same thing. Asphalt Sally says, I just found you subscribed. I can't stand these fools and have thought I was alone until this came out. Again, the most disturbing thing for me is all the seemingly intelligent individuals who still fall for their bull crap. So there's a couple of things I wanted to say about this one. Was I thought I was alone. So yes, again, that's why this is important to talk about, so that people can see that they're not alone and have a better understanding of who they're dealing with. And the most disturbing thing for me is all the seemingly intelligent individuals who still fall for it. And I think, like I was sort of saying before, that there's game recognized game. The people who are falling for it are they're getting something out of falling for it. And it's not going to be the same thing for everybody, but for a lot of them, it's going to be that it's the same reason that MAGA supports Trump, because they think that they can get away with the things that Trump gets away with. And I think that there's a similar dynamic going on here. So yeah, Asphalt Sally, good observation. This one I'm just mentioning because I'm so thrilled about it. So Katrina Dancer says, great job. This is an excellent assessment. For those who will get the reference, the garage door is like the new True Crime Loser boiler. And I brought this one out just because I was so thrilled to be mentioned in the same sentence as True Crime Loser, who I absolutely adore. So thanks, Katrina. For mentioning that, because I love him. So the next one is Frockabye Baby Shabby Chic 2611. Now that's a mouthful. So Frockabye Baby says, the photographs may have been Kresha's. Oh, okay. Here we go. But that does not make the montage Kresha's. Surely I'm not the only person that can see this. Well, you're not the only person who doesn't understand fair use, Frockabye Baby. And I just, yeah, so creating the montage took work. Taking the photos of those family members who were eventually unalived by Lori Vallow and her accomplices. Anyway, just to point out that there are people out there that are so insanely missing the point here that, please don't feel too bad about, not picking up on the grift right away, because so this person says, this is the same person, Frockabye Baby, I'm not an HTC subscriber, not a hidden gem, just a person wondering how many people will suddenly decide to become YouTubers on the back of the witch hunt. I feel like I'm observing a social phenomenon and it's frightening. Same, Frockabye Baby, but the social phenomenon I'm watching is grifters not being held accountable for their horrifying behavior. So thanks for sharing, but I don't agree with you at all. Spike and Rocky says, every time I watch this, I'm more impressed by how mediocre JM actually is. Yeah. I expect a recent grad to rely on books as a crutch, not a seasoned professional. Where is his actual experience, and why can't he apply facts to all of these theories he is reading? Okay, maybe he isn't quite so dumb. Why explicitly defame someone when you can just insinuate things? Also, why is he relying on thought experiments and not legal precedents to make his point? Oh, right. There are none that support his argument. So yeah, just more astute criticisms of John that are, right on point. Lisa Loney says, thanks for indulging me. I unsubscribed from them after their behavior over Delphi. Yeah, so just another example of that, right? That it seems like they're just towing the official line, and that's how they are. That's how she's able to, put in calls to Bobby Joe and stuff, is because they're on side with the official version of things. They're not on side with the victims. Life is good. G2 good. Life is good. I'm calling you Life is good. HTC is making a lot of money off this stalker story. Anyone want to take a guess on how much of that bank they have donated to stalker victim programs or DV victim programs? Right? Excellent point. I think that's an excellent point. I don't know how much they've donated, but I'm going to go ahead and guess none. And they're going to, even if they thought that, maybe they should, they're going to excuse not doing so by the fact that their view count is down and they're losing viewers and their future earnings are unstable and etc. So anyway, good point. Another window into the lack of integrity. We've got Deborah Longton. This is another person I think who's on side with them. So exploited, she interviewed them as is her job. It's not your job to interview people who are sobbing and gasping and gulping for air because they're that far into their grief that they can hardly function. So spare me, Deborah. The video Kresha used was created by HTC. Yes, the copyright strike was petty, but Kresha could have made her own video using her own photos, but she did not. She doesn't have to, so I'm not sure what your little tearful thing is there for. She used the HTC created video. So what? Fair use. So what? I'm not a gem. What I see is HTC scrambling to justify some recent behavior and save their income stream. I'm also seeing YouTube creators piling on. Yeah, well, I think that you are not... it's all very high school bullying on both sides. I feel like I can basically just go, meh. I have no respect for Deborah Longton's opinions here. I don't think she's got anything to add to the conversation, but I do want to include people who don't agree, just to show that I'm not, you can agree with me. I mean, or you can disagree with me. It's fine. I mean, I'm not necessarily gonna say, oh yeah, that's great, but you can do it, and I won't delete you. Thank you for keeping this issue in the algorithm universe, says Love Always Redacted, right? So I think that's important too. It's important to keep it in the algorithm because we, excuse me, we all of us have a responsibility for cleaning up the mess that the true crime community has become over the last little bit of time. So it is so important to educate all of us to be more aware and responsible for exactly what we are supporting. Truth matters, right? I agree. Love Always Redacted. Thank you for commenting. And we got Thunder Snow Dog again. This is another hidden true crime, hidden gem. Here to tell me what my problem is. So that's fair. You can tell me what you think my problem is. So my problem is some people can tell who the bullies are and who the good-hearted people are. I don't see how that's my problem. That doesn't make logical sense, but I think I know what you're trying to say. And the fact that you're still trying to take down someone who isn't doing anything but moving forward is ultra revealing about who you are. So my opinion on that is that the fact that she's trying to move forward from this without making amends is indicative of the fact that she knows that she's done wrong and she's hoping people are just gonna forget about it and move on. But clearly Thunder Snow Dog wants to know, what's the goal? To prove nobody ever stopped and harassed her? Yeah. Isn't that kind of what you're doing now as a flying monkey to the main narcissist? Yeah, no, so this is again, I am talking about Lauren on social media. I have not contacted her. I have not sent people to contact her. I have expressly said I don't think people should harass her, go to her house, harm her in any way. So, again, we can ignore that. Lauren and John are good-hearted people. I think we have demonstrated that that's not true. If you need to continue the bullying, go for it. Oh, thanks, Thunder Snow Dog. I will. I mean, it's not bullying, but I intend to keep on talking about these people until I see that they have either made amends or, suffered the consequences that they deserve. And then she ends it. This is so great. But you can fool all of the people some of the time and some of the people all of the time. But you can't fool all of the people all of the time. We see you. So, coming from someone who has been duped by a pair of grifters, that's pretty rich. But thanks for commenting. All engagement is welcome. Unless you're being rude or abusive or violent or whatever, then you're going to get blocked. But disagreeing, fill your boots. Mystic Wallflower says, I taught social work in college for many years. If I were still teaching, I would use Dr. John as an example of what not to do. Dr. John needs a refresher course. So another psychologist, social worker, mental health person with integrity in the comments going, this is not the way to do it. So thank you for that. Please, people, don't tar all psychologists with the Dr. John breath. Dr. John makes me totally discount mental health providers, says Gina Magagi. Yeah, right? So that's exactly the point that I'm making. It's like, so how many victims do these people have now? It's insane, right? Granny Escantada says, when I saw one of their podcasts for the first time, she made fun of him for putting on weight during COVID. He wouldn't look at her, just tried to play it off, not looking at the camera. She kept laughing at him. Disturbing that she knew she embarrassed him on camera and kept it up. I wonder if her fear of text being released includes put-downs of John. Super great observation. Yeah. I mean, John is her protector and her defender, and what if he finds out that she's been talking bull poop about him? But the other thing I wanted to say from this is that, excuse me, with these type of people, these type of personalities, it is often said, and it can be, it's pretty true, that every accusation is a confession. And if you recall, John accused Christina et al. Of being sadistic. And I haven't seen this episode that Granny Encantada is talking about, but that sounds sadistic to me. And so I just wanted to point that out because I thought that accusation was particularly egregious. But in the light of this business of every accusation is a confession, it makes a lot of sense. So thanks for that, Granny Encantada. Yeah, great observation. Chocolate Chip 12, you're back again. We've had more than one cookie themed name in these comments. So I'm not sure how planting the seed in people's minds repeatedly and at length that Lauren is comparable to a PDF file is supposed to help clear her reputation, but I guess I'm not the one with the PhD in psychology. So yeah, Chocolate Chip 12. As far as I understand it, and I could be wrong, but as far as I understand it, his PhD is actually in philosophy, not in psychology. He's got a master's in social work and family counseling or something like that. That's according to Christina. But yeah, I actually noticed that too. That I actually commented on it in one of my videos. I laughed at like the way he was saying it made it seem like she had done it rather than that she was being accused of it. And he seemed... There were lots of times when the look on her face suggested that she would really prefer that he didn't keep repeating these really negative things about her. But yeah, I think that's maybe, I was talking about it earlier, like I don't think they're I don't think they are as united a front on things as they are pretending to be. And I think Lauren is quite terrified, and she thought that John was going to be her big protector and bring out all the receipts here. And then when it all started coming out, it wasn't what she, some of it was really not what she was hoping for. Yeah, there was a lot of discomfort evident throughout. So yeah, great observation. Carpenter in Florida, EG, says they believe they are all that in a bag of chips. I like that comment because it's an old thing I haven't heard for a while. I haven't heard anybody say that for a while. She's so wanting to be Bamfield or CNN voice. Yeah, absolutely. Or above either. What I've observed is not stalking, dear Lord. If only they had been stalked as some have, they would not know what to do. We that have had a stalker, it takes years to speak, stop shaking, stop jumping at a tiny noise, etc. They are just trying to shut down voices, grateful that the judges saw through it. So, yeah, and again, like, I think you're right. I think that Lauren sees herself as the princess of true crime, and she's angling to become, an anchor on one of those channels. Law and Order or what's the other one? Court crime? I can't remember. Anyway, but yeah, I think that's a really good point. And also, again, like what they are taking away from actual victims by using up the court's time, using up the police time, wasting people's time with their lies, while real victims could really use those resources. So yeah, thank you, Carpenter, Florida, EG. ND Grandma 2124 says, so a doctor can diagnose a person without one-on-one office visit? This is nothing more than using doctor credentials to target a single individual. Bottom line is the bottom line. Yeah. Yeah, another one. Like, just, yeah. He is diagnosing people in public without ever giving them the, like, when these people diagnose someone, they have to run them through all these batteries of personality tests and stuff, right? For people like me, I can talk about my observations. For psychologists, psychiatrists, etc., no, that's not how it goes. Montag Muller says, that wasn't a thought experiment, and why does he always go to the kids? I need a shower after listening to this guy. Beyond bizarre. So it was the I need a shower after listening to this guy that I put up here, because absolutely it makes you feel dirty listening to their manipulations, and it's similar to the way I feel about Kevin Spacey. And that's why I can't watch his movies. And these guys don't struggle with those feelings because they lack empathy. And they're not aware that that's how people are going to feel about what they're doing. So yeah, thanks for that. Montag Muller. Thank you for that. Eve in Germany. Someday Lauren will wrong Grayson like she has done the others. Then it will be interesting what Grayson will have to say. Yeah, one day she's going to discard Grayson is what's going to happen. The way she discarded all these other people. And, that John is trying to characterize as, rejecting them because of her superior princessness, I guess. Anyway. Moving on. We're in part 5 now, so we're nearly over. So this one here, it's such a sad thing when we have gotten to the point that we feel it's okay to comment on each other's looks. This is just sad for all parts in this controversy. And again, thanks, Vibe. Kehelsund. Viebeck. Helsund. Maybe that's German. Sorry, I'm sure I mangled it. Again, this is this cookie cutter morality that is so unnuanced that these types of people are delighted that you're going to go with cookie cutter moralism because it gets them off the hook. And I have explained very thoroughly what my opinions are on why it's okay to talk about Lauren's looks as it relates to her personality. And so again, I think this is just whatever. It's just a way of not having to bother to investigate what's actually going on. And it's dismissive and it's small time. So thanks for sharing, Vibeke Helizant. But I think you're way off the mark. And then Vadadu says, it's baffling that he not only seems to lack training in psychology, he doesn't even seem to have the basic understanding of people that the rest of us pick up from just existing and interacting with other humans. Yeah, right? If someone radically changes their face to the point of disfigurement, we're not talking about a little tweak. Might it be fair to think that they have some insecurities, at least about their physical appearance? As a psychologist, shouldn't he be trained to look for physical indicators of psychological issues that the rest of us can spot without even any training? So yeah, thank you for that, right? Nuance. And we're here for the nuance. We're not here to have John's black and white nonsense jammed down our throats. And Dory Dakin says, I have to say at the end of this episode 5, Dr. Babe scares me. There's something wrong with him. And I think that's a very reasonable reaction to have had to all of that shouting and swearing and dissing of Lori and telling people that she was despised. Like, he's diagnosing Christina with repressed rage when he is clearly enraged about the whole situation here. So, yeah, I don't blame you. I think he is kind of scary, and I would not want to be a client of his. So, yeah, thanks for the observation. Janina873 says, he provides textbook examples of cherry-picking, appeal to authority, false equivalence, confirmation bias, and a plain unawareness of his blind spots and subjectivity due to his involvement in the situation. It appears he's completely unaware that he's doing these things, which is concerning coming from a psychologist, right? So yeah, like even those of us are out here just watching him can pick up on all this stuff. And the fact that he can't see it is concerning. Absolutely. Thank you, Janina. Great comment. Got my snarky Nana pants on. Says, seeing his response made me realize his understanding of Richard Allen. I couldn't understand how he condoned what happened to him. Now I see he has no independent thinking skills and will follow what the authorities want. Right? Exactly. We talked about this already. I think a lot of people gave their heads a shake over the Delphi stuff and the way they talked about Richard Allen. So thank you for that. The Brewdog says, I'm really glad there are people creating content covering the behavior of these two, and I hope it continues until they have been fully outed. Right? I agree. There is meaning and import behind all of this. And people who are dismissing it as a cat fight or bandwagon jumping are basically on the side of abusers and lack of accountability, in my opinion. So Brewdog goes on to say, in my opinion, it's critical to highlight their personalities to the public as they have had major influence over the true crime culture the past few years. Some may say, big deal, who cares about true crime? But I'd argue the importance is in the title. This is a great observation, Brewdog. True crime is the most heinous topic of modern society. To have emotional and psychological control over this portion of the culture means they are swinging a potentially powerful hammer around. This can't be left unchecked, in my opinion. Now that they have been exposed, these people want to let the situation fade away, which it would have had they left it alone, but their egos wouldn't let them, which shows just how far this has gone to their heads. In my opinion, we need more people to do exposés such as this one concerning their despicable behavior. They are the ones that generated a public pressure campaign, insisting it was perfectly appropriate, but they were too obtuse to realize it would turn against them. So this is a fantastic post, in my opinion, and I wholeheartedly agree. This is not kid stuff. This is the stuff that life is made of. And these people are harming people around them and getting away with it. And we need to have accountability in the YouTube true crime community if we're going to be taken seriously in seeking accountability from perpetrators. So Well said, Brewdog. Thank you for commenting. Dr. Calamity Jan is back. And she says, and it's a great point, thought experiments are designed to be almost unimaginably difficult to answer. Like the trolley problem, right? For example, flick switch A and you kill the 5 people who mean the most in the world to you. Flick switch B and you kill thousands of people you don't know. That's a thought experiment. Becky and Victoria is not, right? So yes, thank you for the example, because I think a lot of people weren't clear about thought experiments. And thought experiments, just to point out, thought experiments are generally done by philosophers, not psychologists. Dr. John did mention that, but I'm not sure if it didn't go over people's heads. They're done by philosophers to try to deal with sticky situations, just like this one, right? That she describes, not to, control the narrative and make yourself look like you didn't do anything wrong. So thanks for that, Dr. Calamity Jan. God love you. And Main Hypnosis says, can you just imagine how these two talk about their guests behind their backs? Like, yeah, I can. More's the pity. But yeah, I wonder if their guests can or are aware of it. Sophie M says, thank you so much for analyzing this. It helps me processing. So again, just more examples of people to whom this is important, and that it's a process coming to understand how all of this works and what is going on here. And it's important that people go through that process and come to their own understanding about what's actually happening. So thanks for that comment, Sophie. Yeah, I've noticed you have made a lot of great comments. But yeah, so this one is just pure. I think that might be my favorite comment in the entire thing. And it comes from John Adorjan. And he says, this is one of the best comments I've ever made. And I agree. I mean, for me, it's awesome. I think you'll all get it. So I'm just going to move on. It's Fig5872 says, thank you for taking the time to break down the truth here. I've been waiting for this to happen for years. So again, lots of people commenting on the fact that this matters to them. It's important to them, and they feel seen, validated, heard, and that they matter. And I think that's why I'm here. Basically, that's why I'm here. We're back with Bran Flaky again, who says, exactly, so responding to something, I'm not sure what, but no one is saying public figures should accept stalking or be less protected. We're saying we all heard the evidence and the judge determined that it was not stalking. And I know there are social pressures which impact women uniquely with regards to appearance. However, I find it misogynistic to believe that the most harm you can do to a woman is to speak critically of their looks. What the F, John? Do you know there are women who couldn't care less what people think of their appearance? Go after my values. And you stand a shot at hurting my feelings. Pick on my appearance and I'll just pity you for being someone who thinks that'd hurt me. Right. So, so I think that what he's talking about here is like, he's sort of pointing out that the ad hominem attacks are, people are, if you're hurt by an ad hominem attack, then you're obviously feeling really insecure or whatever. It's not kind of the same thing as commenting on somebody's looks as it relates to their behavior and what their looks can tell you about their behavior. What he's talking about here is just like trying to take a woman down by talking about her appearance. And I think it's a good point, right? For him to be like, women are so sensitive about their appearance that you can just destroy them by saying that they're ugly or whatever. And yeah, right. I don't think that's true. If people started attacking me for my appearance, I think I would feel the same way. Like, yeah. I'm not that insecure about it, or else these big lines in my forehead would be full of things that would made them not visible to all y'all. Donna Lena again, who is added several quotes or several comments in today's video. She says, just a thought. Does anyone else suspect that John has a short trigger and engages in temper tantrums when he's annoyed? Maybe Lauren knows how to sit there and let him rant. Yeah, again, like a lot of people commenting on the dynamic between them, and the feeling that John is gonna freak if you interrupt him. So yeah, lots of people observed that. Jules Smith says, I think Dr. John uses his books as a shield so that he doesn't have to take responsibility for anything he says. It's in the book, not my fault. So yeah, I kind of agree with that in a way. It's that appeal to authority, right? He's covering his butt by saying it's in the book, it's in the book. So yeah, astute observation, Jules. Christine Marie Young says, I too was cut off when I was driving down Parramatta Road 5 years ago. I'm still angry because it was so sexist. So a lot of people responding to that because apparently they all live in that same area of Australia and they know what a terrible road that is. But I just appreciated the humor and the example of actual humor used to bring levity, because this is actually funny and nobody is being, it's not catty, nobody's being done down by it, whatever, right? So I just wanted to use that, show that example. Lighter of the Way says, ethics that should be followed, boundaries remain essential, therapists should avoid disclosing more than is appropriate, refrain from forming dual relationships with students or participants, and maintain professionalism, even in casual or community settings. So, very nicely articulated, and I think that most of us are aware of that, right? Most of us can figure those things out, even though we haven't had training in professional ethics as psychologists. So the fact that John can't figure that out is very telling. And then so we've got Janice Scott says, it seems like there are many attorneys who would advise them to not be discussing this potentially explosive situation, but then no clicks. So 2 good points here. One is that their attorneys are lame, so you can find out more about that from I will put a link in the description. Dali from Hella's channel did a little expose of their lawyer yesterday and what he's facing charges for. So seems like they don't have the greatest lawyer anyway. They're not getting the greatest advice. Coastal Carolina again says, John is diagnosing Christina with a personality disorder, yet he is unable to see what's under his own nose and in his own home. And I had that exact thought. Like, it's a really great example of how very much of the reasons why he shouldn't be involved in this, why it's a conflict of interest, why he's too close and he cannot behave ethically when it's his own wife that is involved, because he can't even see what's happening in his own home because he's in love with her or he needs her or whatever. But yeah, great observation. And this one, Sami Savta again, saying the call is truly coming from inside the house. And I thought, yeah, exactly. Exactly. It sums the entire thing up very nicely. So thanks for that, Sammy. And the final comment is from Sola Gracia, who says, I've seen many commentaries on this ridiculous response video. I most appreciate that instead of just pointing out the absurdity of these two and the bizarre self-aggrandizing rants, you constantly remind us that the things they're claiming are irrelevant since there's no stalker. The woman did nothing more than just expose them on a TikTok account. She didn't even name them. She isn't violent or abusive. She's not out to kill them. She just wants accountability after seeing them for who they really are. Okay, so super great observations, right? This basically sums up the entire thing. But the final line is really what I wanted to read because it made me laugh. It says, also Gabriel the Herder called. He doesn't appreciate his name being maligned in this way when he was just being vulnerable and trying to express his emotions. So yeah, that brings us to the end of the comment section. Sorry, I shouldn't do that. Probably hurts your eyes. I'm just going to pause now. Hang on. Okay, so that's the end of the video for today. Thanks everybody for coming. Thanks for commenting and liking and subscribing and all the rest of it. And let me know what you think about this format. If people like it, I will continue to do it. And if it's not that big a hit, then we'll give it a miss.